Hey everyone, my name is Sean, and in today's video we're going to be doing a tier list for Season 5 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. The date is May 1st, 2022, and so let's get to it and talk about how powerful decks have been in the previous season. Before we begin, I want to start off by saying that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a diverse game with many decks. Those which have made this list are based on tournament results. However, there are many powerful strategies yet to be popularized in Master Duel. The most important thing that I want you to take away from this is that you should play what you enjoy. There are so many decks in this game that you could be successful with, so feel free to play what keeps you coming back for more. Before we get into the tier list, we should start off by saying that we'll talk about what changed in the game in the previous season or so. And so we're going to start off by talking about the Synchron Festival. The Synchron Festival obviously was about promoting Synchron-based decks. And so with the festival being around, it may have encouraged people to pick up new decks or strategies that could be played within this festival and then take them to tournaments and try them out. Especially because we had two new sets as well added to the game. One with being Beyond Speed as reflective of Dawn of Majesty, and the most noteworthy card from here is Baron de Fleur, definitely being a card that has made an impact on the meta. And then also we had added to the game Ruler's Mask with the Despia archetype, an archetype which you'll see definitely be seeing more of in the future, along with some Sword Soul cards being put into the game, which I'm very excited to play in the future, that haven't got their whole array of cards just yet. Depending on when you're watching this video, I've recorded this on the 1st of May, but on May the 9th, there will be an update to the Forbidden and Limited list in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, and the changes you can see on screen will be taking effect from there. Now, you will see some changes to the meta, but this has really been just to curb the meta a little bit, to make the most powerful, most popular decks a little bit weaker. So you will see some changes of the meta, and when we get to Season 6, I will show you the results of that in the from how things have performed in the past month or so. And so I'm very excited to see what it is. People are already testing out the new format to see what works well and what doesn't work well. But for the time being, I will just say that you will see some changes, but the decks that have been hit from this ban list are not going to be completely out of the meta. So it's not a revolutionary change, it's a subtle change, but a good one nonetheless. We're now going to talk about the tier list here, and one thing that I learned from doing the tier list last time is I had a lot of people saying that, hey, I think that this deck should be here or this deck should be there and whatnot, and kind of missing the point that this is not based on my opinion, but this is based on tournament results. So I've kept the tiers the same in this video. However, I've tried to redefine what it means to enter each tier so that things are hopefully a little bit clearer to people. Starting from tier 5 are basically decks that are now out of the meta. Decks that have not been able to win a tournament and have not made top cut at all. If you don't know what top cut is, it refers to decks that can basically hit the finals of a tournament. In Yu-Gi-Oh! This is how it looks like, and depending on how many participants there are, it will dictate how many rounds of Swiss there will be and then what your top cut should be. So if you have only 9 to 16 players, that would be 4 rounds of Swiss, with some buys if you haven't got exactly 16, and then there will be a top 4 cut should you wish to have a final round go through. Now, I pretty much have ignored any tournament that is smaller than 64 players because I don't think those sample sizes are really worth looking at. In fact, all my tournaments are 64 plus, going from 7 rounds of Swiss towards even 10 rounds of Swiss, with one tournament even having over 1,000 players, so that I really can give you the data which I think is as accurate as possible. So if the deck isn't really mentioned here, and I'm talking about top cut, it means they managed to hit these stats here, either top 8, top 16, or top 32. With that being said, let's go through the tiers again. So tier 5 are decks that have not won a tournament and have not made top cut. Tier 4 are decks that have not won a tournament but did make top cut. Tier 3 are decks that did win a tournament and often make top cut. Tier 2 are decks that have won several tournaments and often make top cut. And Tier 1 are decks that consistently win tournaments and they also make top cut very often. And if you are going to a tournament, you definitely want to be planning for the decks in Tier 1, as you are very likely to see them as you play. So this is the tier list as follows, and we've got, so we're going to start off from the Season 4 tier list. If you didn't watch my Season 4 video, you might want to do so, just so that you're up to date with why things were placed in the previous season. So I'm going to switch over to the tab here, and this is how it was with overall. I won't recap these, as you can watch that in the previous video, but this is what it was like. And then we've got a couple of new decks that are entering the meta now that are worth talking about, that I'm very, very excited to describe how well they performed as well, because it's shaking things up. But again, let me just reiterate, there's so many decks you can play in Yu-Gi-Oh! And regardless of whether it's tier 1 or tier 4 on this list, it's still a good deck. If you're really a fan of Magical Musketeers, you could do well with it. It doesn't mean that you will always do well with it, but you could still have a good time playing a deck that you enjoy. So definitely go from there. Before I talk about what the changes are to this tier list, I want to just quickly say that my channel is approaching 5,000 subscribers. I've been doing Yu-Gi-Tubing for a very, very long time, almost 7 years now. And hitting 5k subscribers will be very, very much a good goal for me to reach. And so if this video has helped you in any way, feel free to share it and hit the subscribe button. But more importantly than hitting the subscribe button, leave your thoughts down in the comments down below. I love talking to people about Yu-Gi-Oh! It's one of my favorite games of all time, and that is why I do this. So leave a comment down below. I will reply when I can. And if you want to leave a like, leave a like. So got the shilling part out of the way. Let's move on to the tier list and see the good stuff. So we're going to start off basically, we're going from the worst changes to the best changes. So going from the best decks to worst decks to the best decks. And we're going to start off with a deck that's actually in tier 2 I'm going to talk about, and that is Tri-Brigade Lyrilusc. Tri-Brigade Lyrilusc is a variant of Zoodiac, variant of Tri-Brigade that uses the Lyrilusc engine, then focusing on the Zoodiac engine. Now, this deck has really become very unpopular in the past couple of weeks, and people really aren't playing it that much anymore. It has seen some success, being able to win a tournament, but definitely not more than that. And it has topped once or twice, but it's definitely just dying out. People really aren't playing this deck anymore. So it's going to drop from tier 2 and move to tier 3. Moving on from that, we're going to talk about some decks that are at the bottom here that I put on the deck initially because you see them quite often in ranked, but they definitely have not had a competitive presence, and that is Dark Magician, Toons, and then also a couple of others as well. So Dark Magician, Toons, Nostalgia based decks, they were there because they were popular for a while, but as now that Master Duel players I've started to settle into the current meta, you're not really seeing these decks being played competitively whatsoever. A deck that was really popular in Season 2 but really hasn't done a whole lot since then was Numeron. Numeron is a very easy to understand archetype. It throws a couple of monsters on the field and tries to OTK your opponent by battle, but there are so many ways to counter the Numeron engine, and since then the deck is pretty much just dead. So Numeron is pretty much out of the meta right now, and I wouldn't recommend investing into it unless you already have the cards. Now, two decks that unfortunately have underperformed and continue to underperform are Pendulum-based strategies, and we have Pendulum Magician and Endmyions. Both of these decks, again, Pendulums are very, very harshly treated in the current format of Yu-Gi-Oh! They were the only form of summoning that didn't get a buff from the current Master Rule format. And they just kind of are very, very slow. They can do some really crazy stuff, and they can be some very, very powerful boards. But competitively speaking, they just haven't got a presence whatsoever. So unfortunately, it saddens me to say, these are both decks which I personally have bought and played myself in the past, but then just not doing that good right now. So Pendulum Magician and Endmyion are out of the meta right now. A deck that managed to top last format but hasn't really seen success again is Magical Musket, and so that's going to drop down to the top of tier 5. Not that it really means anything. The deck is basically dead. Yeah, just no one's really playing it anymore. I'm sure there's a couple of fans of Magical Muskets, but yeah, they're competitively speaking, there's no real presence there. I'm going to move out the FTKs. I'm not going to really talk about them, but these FTKs have been around in the game. You don't really see them competitively anymore, and the new balance is going to really hit the DD Dynamite one, so hopefully that deck will just die off forever. I want to talk about these decks here. Speedroid, Magikey, Stardust Synchron, and Despia. These are decks that I put not based on tournament results, but based on potential of them becoming really, really popular with the new releases of the new sets and new cards. And I can tell you now, after putting them tentatively in Tier 4, Magikey, Despia, and Stardust Synchron have really done nothing in the meta whatsoever. Despia, particularly, I would keep my eye out for, and if you've invested in this one, don't regret investing in this, as Despia is one of the best decks in the game right now in the TCG, particularly with Adventurer Despia, but it doesn't have all of the cards available to it right now in Master Duel, so it's not really surprising to me that it's not going to do anything on the tournament scene, but yeah, so hold on to these cards for a while. They will grow in value, but the rest of these really haven't done much at all. However, Speedroid is a little bit different, and we'll come to that later on. Now, another deck that was higher up in the tier list that kind of underperformed was Dragonmaid. Dragonmaid was tier 3 in the previous format, but now it's going to get dropped down to the bottom of tier 4. It just hasn't done anything, and it hasn't topped. It hasn't, from the data I had, it hasn't topped. It hasn't won any tournaments. Dragonmaid has just kind of disappeared for a while. It's still a good deck. It still can do really crazy stuff, but nobody's just who is topping with this deck is really playing it, or no one who is playing this deck is able to top with it right now. So Dragonmaids are going to hit down to tier 4 based on their history and based on their previous success. I won't throw them out the meta, but they really just didn't do anything in the previous format. Next is Cyber Dragon. Cyber Dragon are out of the meta. Again, another nostalgia kind of vibe. Often what you find with a new format or a new game like this, as I've seen with like Link Evolution and Legacy of the Duelist, is people will pick up the game, have some fun with it for a while, and they want to try and play their old school favorite decks as best as they can. But competitively speaking now, Dark Magician, Cyber Dragon, and Toons haven't really done anything since Season 2, Season 3. So, yeah, they're out of the meta right now, and yeah, they're still fun nostalgia decks, but they're kind of gone right now. A deck that unfortunately saddens me that to see drop, and is going to drop from tier 3 to tier 4, is going to be Altergeist. Altergeist were doing really well up to this point. They had even managed to win tournaments in the past, but in the last season or so, they really haven't had much of a presence at all. They've been unable to top, they've been unable to win, and they're a really good control-based strategy, but for the time being, they're going to have to go down to tier 4. And looks like with the way things are, they're going to probably head down even lower than in the format and disappear for a while until people start picking the deck up again. But Altergeist have been around for a long time. They were very prevalent as a rogue option in the Link 4 format, where we were the Master Rule 4 format, where we were focusing most on Link summons. And nowadays, they've kind of had their time in the sun. So, you know, it's nice to see them do what they do, but it doesn't surprise me whatsoever that no one's really playing Altergeist. Now, a deck that is continuing to hang on to its current position, and is a deck that has managed to top still in tournaments, is True Draco, one of my babies, a deck that I really, really love. So it's great to see that people can still win with this deck competitively. And True Dracos are going to just basically remain in tier 4. I'll put them here to begin with, they'll shuffle down later on, but True Dracos are a great rogue strategy. Their popularity was cemented in the last Synchron Festival as one of the best decks of that festival to play. I know I played it a bunch. I managed to get all my rewards with True Draco, as they are a deck that doesn't rely on the extra deck whatsoever and can perform very, very well, especially when they catch people off guard. If people don't know how to play against this deck, they can do a lot of crazy things. So True Dracos are really good and are still managed to top tournaments, so they're going to hang around still in tier 4 as a solid option to pick. Doing equally as well as True Draco, and two new decks that are entering the meta, are Fluffals and Plunder Patrol. Two things that I was really, really happy to see. I'm always happy to see new decks enter a format, and Plunder Patrol and Fluffals are decks which have often been fan favorites, but never really too crazy on a competitive scene. So seeing that people are trying to prove themselves with these decks is really, really exciting to me. Fluffals are a fusion-based strategy, whereas Plunder Patrol are more of a multiple extra deck-based strategy, where their pirates are the main deck monsters and their ships are the extra deck monsters, with Synchros, Links, XZs being available to them. They are all about stealing your opponent's resources and equipping it to them as part of their cards. And they have negates along the way and effects that can remove things. So they're really, really fun to see being played. Similarly to Fluffals, Fluffals are a very consistent fusion-based strategy with fusion monsters that aren't too crazy, but are very, very easy to bring out onto the board and can do a lot of quirky things. And so if you don't know how to play against Fluffals, I can see them really catching you off guard. And with powerful cards in the game right now, like Super Polymerization being around, fusion-based strategies are doing very, very well. So it's really cool to see people managing to top tournaments with Fluffals. We're going to move, another deck that's going to move down a little bit, but I still think it's doing really well, is Blackwings. And Blackwings are going to now move down to the top of tier 4. Blackwings are very, very good. They're a good combo synchro strategy, and it doesn't surprise me to see that they're still seeing success because of the Synchro Festival. But in previous formats, they managed to win a tournament. They didn't manage to get that luxury this time, but they did manage to get top 8 in a really good tournament. So well done to Blackwings. They're still performing well. I think there's probably a couple of players out there that are very passionate about the deck, that are still trying their best to succeed with it. And yeah, it's always good to see that kind of dedication be rewarded with a good performance. A deck that's doing slightly a little bit better than Blackwings is Subterror. Subterror was towards the lower part of tier 4 before, but it's definitely going to be towards the higher part now. It is a control-based strategy that uses flip effect monsters to really interrupt their opponent and gain more advantage. It's very similar to Altergeist in a way where once the deck starts to snowball and get more and more resources while shutting the opponent down, it really can become very, very difficult to stop. And the fact that the deck can run multiple negates with many Solemns, a hand trap called Subterror Fiendis that is an Omni negate, and then also really good floodgates like There Can Be Only One, and powerful engine cards such as Final Battle that can continue to get them more resources by flipping cards face up and down, but also modify the attack and defense of your monsters. Subterrors are a very good rogue strategy to pick. So if you're not looking for something that's too crazy with combos, maybe you want to give Subterrors a try. It's a good control deck strategy, and it continues to remain in tier 4. We're going to go for another new deck that's going to enter the meta now, and that's going to be Infernoble Knight, and that's going to hit right onto just a tier 4 to the top of tier 4. Infernoble Knights are a combo synchro based strategy that revolve around Infernoble monsters that can really just set up very good plays. They have good extender based Link 2 monsters such as Isolde, Crystal Hauki Firebax for example, that can be summoned out very easily with these cards. Particularly Renard into Squeak Knight is a very, very common play that they like to open up with. But it can even do things like Neospatian something into Aqua Dolphin, and that's also a really good opening play to have because it gets you 2 monsters on the field, and plus you get to rip a card out of your opponent's hand. What's great about Infernoble Knights is they can set up a board with multiple forms of interruption, but then also use equipped spell cards available in the game like Smoke Grenade or the Thief to rip more cards out of your opponent's hand. And if they go first, their goal is to kind of get rid of 1 to 2 cards out of your hand, so that, and also reveal your hand to them so they know exactly what you're playing and exactly how to shut you down before you even get the chance to make a move. If you don't have the right hand trap against Infernoble Knights, they can be very, very difficult to beat. But it's good to see that they are now entering the meta as they are at full power. A lot of people asked me before in the previous season, what about this deck and what about this deck? This deck is really good. I agree with you. These decks are really good, but no one's really was picking certain decks up because they thought that by copying the TCG and the OCG, they would go by their meta. But the Master Duel meta is very, very different. And Infernoble is one of those decks that is still quote-unquote at full power and has flown under a lot of people's radars, in my opinion. So it's good to see that it's now entering the meta. There is now, while Pendulum Magician and Endmyion are pretty much dead, there is one Pendulum strategy that is available still in the game that is doing very, very well right now, and that is Zefraath. Zefraath Pendulum uses some Yangzine cards, but uses the Pendulum, the Zefraath engine to search out different negates and set up different boards. And with Baron de Fleur being added to the game, this deck has seen a very, very massive popularity spike, and we're seeing it being used in tournaments. Its highest best performance was that it managed to get 3rd place in the tournament, which is really, really good and very, very promising for the health and future of this deck. So we're going to pop it into tier 4, and that is going to go, well, let's put it at the top of tier 4 for now. It did a little bit better than Infernoble, so it's going to go a little bit higher than that. And yeah, Zefraath is really cool, and it's great to see that this strategy is seeing more and more play. So if you are looking for a pendulum-based strategy, this seems to be the best one to go for right now, although I still have a lot of fondness for these two. So feel free to play them if you want to. I would love to see more people play them up. We're going to now look at one of the biggest drops of the tier list, and something that really kind of hurts me to do, but I'm going to have to do it because this deck very much underperformed compared to the last season, and it is Phantom Knight. Phantom Knight were doing so well. They started off in the game rating about tier 3, they climbed up to tier 2, but in the last season or not, they've kind of just been dropped by a lot of players, and they haven't done a whole lot. So unfortunately, Phantom Knights are going to have to drop down to tier 4. They weren't able to win a tournament. They were managed to make top cut. They did get 3rd place as their highest performance in the tournament. But other than that, they haven't done a whole lot to improve beyond what they were before. So saddens me to say, but Phantom Knights have dropped down quite significantly. But with the ban list being changed soon, that could maybe change as well. And with a lot of the top tier decks being kind of nerfed in a way, maybe we'll see Phantom Knights rise up again, as they are a very good deck. A deck that has now entered the meta, which is one of my oldest and favorite decks of all time, is Orcust. Orcust both managed to get several tops. They managed to get their best performances was one tournament they managed to get 3rd place, and then also in another top they managed to get top 16 in a very big tournament. And so they're now going to go and enter into tier 4, just a bit of Phantom Knight. And it's great to see Orcust doing well. Orcust were one of the most powerful strategies in Master Rule 4, which was the link-based format of the Yu-Gi-Oh! And they were very popular for many months. I used them very well. I saw many success with Orcust, and then they kind of got nerfed very heavily with certain for the ban list. And so they can't play at full power anymore, but it's good to see that there's other people that are fans of the deck that are trying to make it work. Orcust are a dart-based machine strategy, and if I could describe them to you, they remind me a lot of Tri-Brigade before Tri-Brigade existed. So great to see that Orcust is being picked up a little bit more. A deck that is also new to the ban list, that is equal in power to Orcust and equal performance, was Madolche. Madolche is an old school archetype that does a lot of good rank 4 summons and a lot of good rank 3 summons. And with their Link monster being added to the game a couple of years ago, they've seen play here or there. And it's good to see them now being picked up in Master Duel. Again, they managed to make top cut in on more than one occasion, just like Orcust did. So it's really well for them. And so now they're going to hit tier 4, and I hope to see more of Madolche in the future. We're now going to move on to a deck that has done a significant improvement over the last month or so, or the last season. And it was the only deck that I didn't move to tier 5 for that saw support in the new sets from Beyond Speed, and that is Speedroid. Speedroids managed to win a tournament, and so that is going to pop them into the bottom of tier 3. Speedroids are very fun to play, and with all their new support, they have a lot of good synchro strategies that can access now, and a lot of things they can make. I've seen people mix them with Wind Witch. I've seen people mix them with the other high Speedroid cards, the Yo-Yo cards, and being a wind-based archetype, they can even do stupid things like go into some more and play Barrier Statue of the Winds. There's a lot of creativity and a lot of potential for Speedroids, and I hope to see them continue to be popular in the near future. Another deck that is a nostalgia deck that be honest with you, I kind of thought would drop, but actually managed to win a tournament was Heroes. And Heroes is going to rise up to be equal footing with Speedroids. Yeah, Heroes. Out of all of, say, the protagonist-based decks in the game, being like Yugi, Yusei, all of them, Jade and Yuki's Heroes have been powerful for a very long time. And seeing people still play the deck makes me smile. It's a great combo deck strategy. It does have certain weaknesses, particularly to certain hand traps, but it can do some insane boards. With things like Dark Lord being such an oppressive card still, that was a card that made this deck tier 1 at one point. It's great to see them hanging around, and great to see that a story-based deck can still hang with the big boys. So Heroes did very well in the last season. we've been seeing the rise of a deck, not quite to tier 3, but still climbing up in the ranks, and that is Sky Striker. Sky Striker managed to see several tops, but just missed shy of managed to win a tournament once when it came second place. And yeah, Sky Striker and Orcust, both two very, very powerful decks from the Link 4 meta that were very, very dominant for many years. And Sky Striker is still a very popular strategy. A lot of the options of the deck have been kind of made irrelevant, and it doesn't do as much as it used to do, with certain cards being banned or limited. But Striker is doing very, very well at the moment and is hanging well into Season 4. So well done to the Striker players out there for making the deck work and for getting their victories. We're going to go to another new deck added to the list here, and that is going to be Paleo Frog. Paleo Frogs managed to win a tournament, which is really exciting to see. And so they're going to hit tier 3 as well. Paleo Frogs are a control-based, trap-based strategy that can use a lot of Paleozoic monsters that can go into a lot of easy-to-summon rank 2 monsters, particularly the very powerful rank 2 monster, Totally Awesome. This is a very, very cool deck to play, and it can do a lot of work. It's a very good rogue strategy, and with Paleo cards being very powerful, particularly like Dynamiscus or Pleiades Pleiades, the one beginning with P, they have very, very weird names. Paleo Frogs can do a lot of good things, and so I hope to see more of it in the future, as who doesn't love the Frog Engine? Those guys, they're always so funny. Another deck that did a little bit better than Paleo Frogs and is going to enter into tier 3 is Dragon Link. Dragon Link has been a very powerful strategy for a while. I've been talking crazy about this strategy, and it's been insane that people haven't been playing it, in my opinion. But now it has started to really rise into the meta, and we're seeing Dragon Link being played more and more and more. I don't think the deck is necessarily as powerful as some of the more top tier decks in the game right now, but it can do a lot of work, and it can be a very good contender. So hopefully people will see the value in Dragon Link and choose to continue to play it and pick it up. One of the best things about Dragon Link is that Dragon Link continues to evolve over time, as it's basically just the best dragon cards thrown together. And as long as Konami loves dragons, and boy do they love dragons, Dragon Link should always really be playable and should still see some prevalence. So well done to the Dragon Link players out there for making it to tier 3 and entering the meta. We're going to move on now to a deck in tier 4 that has managed to shine and rise up, and that is Salamangreat, managing to win a tournament here or there. And Salamangreat is going to be just a little bit above Dragon Link to the middle of tier 4. It's great to see Salamangreat doing well. Salamangreat, Sky Striker, Orcust, they were the holy trinity of the Link 4 format, being some of the better Link 4 Master Rule format in the Link Monster era. And for a while after Master Rule 5 came into effect, we thought that all of those decks were dead. But it's good to see that people are still picking them up. Salamangreats can do pretty much anything. They're a very, very balanced deck. You want spell and trap removal? They got it. You want recovery from the graveyard? They got it. You want monster removal, negates. You want access code talker, transcode talker to OTK? They can do it. Sometimes, you know, they can't play through every single board, and they're very, very good right now, and there can be there's a lot of value in Salamangreat right now in the game, and they're proving it. Those players who are dedicated to the deck are proving it in Master Duel. So well done to Salamangreat for moving from tier 4 up to tier 3. Another deck that's managed to hold on its position and is going to pretty much stay in the same place as it is, maybe just shift it along a little bit, is Spyral. This deck, man, I've been curious about Spyral for a while. This is another combo-based deck that was one of the best decks in the game in 2020 that was nerfed quite heavily, but is at full power, I think pretty much at full power in Master Duel, and I want to see Spyral do more. I want to see how does this full power deck at its most powerful in the last couple of years compared to more recent decks. Spyral can do a whole lot of things. They can set up crazy boards with negates. They can break boards with their removal cards. They're very, very good. And it's a deck that I've been wanting to try out quite recently, although they're very, very expensive to build in Master Duel, so I haven't done it yet. But Spyrals are seeing a lot of success. They have managed to win tournaments. They have managed to top tournaments. And so I think they're going to hang around for a while, and they continue to be a tier 3 presence. We're now going to move to Dinos, a deck that a lot of people were like, Dinos should be better, Dinos should be better. And you know what? hey, I'm glad to say people went out and they proved that they should be better, because dinosaurs managed to win some tournaments and also top some tournaments. And so dinos are going to move from tier 4 to tier 3. Dinos are very good. I've always loved dinosaurs. I've loved them as a road-based strategy, and because a lot of their boss monsters are in the main deck, but then there are so many ways you can play them to access good extra deck monsters, such as True King Dinos, Lost World Dinos, Scrap Dinos. There's so many ways you can play dinosaurs that they can be very, very oppressive, and they're just always a good deck to keep around for when you want a good rogue option against some kind of crazy combo deck, as they're very good at breaking boards, but also good at setting up some boards as well. So it's great to see dinos enter the meta and move forward over from tier 4 to tier 3. We're going to move on to now to the final deck to add to the list, and that's Atlantean. And Atlanteans are also a water-based combo deck that also managed to win a tournament. And so welcome to the group, Atlanteans. Atlanteans are a very, very crazy water-based decks. And when you don't know what you're doing against this deck, man, can they be very hard to deal with. One of the hardest things to deal with Atlanteans is their ability to rip cards out of your hands and send them to the graveyard before you even get a chance to play. And then they've got things like Megalo that can do double attack with the right quick spell, and they have a lot of good options to them. Plus they have cards which send to the graveyard for cost and also trigger further effects. So Atlanteans, yeah, are fun to see. They can be bricky sometimes, and so that's why their performance can be a little bit kind of like here and there, or hit or miss. But great to see their presence. They managed to win a tournament. They managed to top tournaments. So welcome to the group, Atlanteans. We're going to move on forward now. We're going to talk about Zoodiac. And this is going to be particularly the pure version of Zoodiac, and not talking about Tri-Brigade. Pure Zoo is previously in tier 4. It was down here, as it definitely wasn't as popular as Tri-Brigade Zoo has. But now people are starting to focus more on the pure Zoo engine to see if they can make it work. And Zoodiac has done really, really well. In fact, Zoodiac managed to win multiple tournaments and not just one. So Zoodiac are going to go towards the top of tier 3. I'm going to pop it just in front of Atlanteans. Their presence, they're not that popular. So outside of winning 2 tournaments, you haven't really seen them too much. So I'm not going to really say that they often make top cut. But someone's doing a lot of work with Zoodiacs out there, and so it's really great to see that if you're a bit sick of playing Tri-Brigade Zoodiac, you could just play the pure Zoodiac engine and get pretty far with it. So Zoodiac, pretty much the best single starter Xyz based engine in the game, kind of like Sky Striker for Lynx, but for Xyz monsters in that way. And they've got things like Dryden and many things they can do with their engine. Zeus, F-Zero, Utopic Dragon. There's so many things you can do with Zoodiacs. And so it's good to see that they're doing well on their own without having to be put as part of the Tri-Brigade engine. Ignister. A deck that I was very proud of, like Phantom Knights in a way, where I thought, like, wow, good to the players that are doing well with Ignister. Now, Ignister's not hasn't done as well as it had in previous seasons, but it's definitely not as bad as Phantom Knights did. And it has managed to win tournaments, it has managed to top tournaments, and so it's going to move slightly down to tier 3, but the top of tier 3. Maybe people are just used to playing against Ignisters, maybe it's been figured out a bit, but it's still seeing some success, but it's definitely not seeing as much success as possible. But I think the deck is very, very powerful. In fact, I'm tempted to really, I'm going to put it up. I'm going to put it to the bottom of tier 2. I think the results are very, very clear for it. It's managed to go first. It's managed to win first, second place. It's managed to hit top 8. So it's managed to hit top 16. So Ignister, not as crazy as it once was. But not as insane as it was last format. But still doing very, very well. So I'm going to keep them at tier 2. Another deck that's going to stay at tier 2, exactly where it is actually, is Prank Kids. Prank Kids, insane. Prank Kids are really, really good. And I think Prank Kids have a lot of good investment value right now to invest into, as they are still a very prevalent deck in the TCG today, which suggests that if we continue to follow the trend of the releases, this deck will still provide good benefits and results for you for many, many months to come. They're very good, and they get even better in the future with future engines added to the game. And even though they got hit on the ban list, quote unquote, with Roxy's being limited to 2, it's not going to really hurt them whatsoever, as Prank Kids really only need to play 2 of each of their monsters to make work. So Prank Kids still doing well, still winning tournaments, still topping tournaments. doing very, very good performance overall. So they're going to remain in tier 2. Now, one of the biggest decks that people kept saying, what about this? What about this? It completely destroys the meta. Adamancipator. I said it in my last video, but I think people just skip through the tier list and don't actually listen. Adamancipator, I said it before. People were not picking up this deck before and they weren't realizing how crazy the deck is. The deck is at absolutely full power and was one of the most dominant decks of the year 2020 in the game. And people have started to realize, oh no, we've got Block Dragon, we've got Union Carrier, we've got everything we need to make Adamancipator insane. And so Adamancipator has been picked up and has started to perform really, really well. And so Adamancipator is going to climb up from tier 3 and it's going to go solidly into the middle of tier 2. It's good. It's a really good deck. It's a great synchro deck. Got insane boards it can make. And it has had some nerfs on the ban list. In fact, it got the most amount of nerfs. If I put that up on the screen for you, I can show that to you. Let's see if that will work. So we might see Adamancipator kind of be die out a bit, as they lost one copy of Roxy's, they lost one copy of Analyzer, and they also lost that's pretty much it. I mean, you can play Sekka's Light version of them if you want to, so but you don't have to play that. But they did get some hits on the ban list, but in a nutshell, I think they will still do well in the future. And now that people are starting to pay attention and notice to it, it's good to see them finally climb up to where they deserve to be, in my opinion. But the data speaks for itself, and Adamancipator is winning tournaments, it's topping tournaments. So good job to the Adamancipator players out there for making their deck really, really shine. Moving on, we still got a couple of decks to move around and go through, so let's keep this up and going through. And next we're going to talk about Thunder Dragon, another deck that is rising up and through. And Thunder Dragon have actually done really, really well this past season. And so Thunder Dragon is actually going to go from being a tier 4 deck towards the top of tier 2. Just a little bit behind Shadow. Shadows are very, very powerful, and spoilers, Shadows are going to remain in tier 2, but Thunder Dragons have proven themselves again. They've had a weird trip in Master Duel. At the start of Master Duel, they weren't really played. Towards the end of Season 2, they were being picked up quite a lot, and then Season 3, Season 4, they were kind of dying out, holding on to old successes, but now they're doing a lot better, and they've managed to win tournaments, top many tournaments, and so Thunder Dragons are doing very, very well overall. Yeah, they're really great. Colossus is amazing as a Floodgate card when going first. Titan's amazing. They can go into Chaos Thunder Dragon if they want to, do the more combo version of their deck. They got a lot of level 8 monsters to summon out rank 8 monsters out in the deck. There's a lot that Thunder Dragon can do, and being a deck that likes to revolve around banishing, they can play crazy Floodgates if they want to, like Dimension Shifter, or even Macrocosmos and Dimensional Fissure. You could also play Danger Thunder if you want to, and make that a thing again, which used to be a very, very popular strategy. And so Thunder Dragons are doing very well in the format right now. Welcome back from tier 4 to tier 2. I already said it, Shadows, insane. Shadows remain at the top best deck of tier 2. What's not to like about Shadows? The best fusion strategy in the game right now. Just dominant, absolutely dominant. I've got a great win-loss ratio against some of the top tier decks in the game right now, and are great as a road pick. You can play Grass Shadows and mill your whole 20 cards of your deck to the graveyard. You can summon out Winder earlier on to limit how many summons your opponent has, and then if they get rid of your monsters, they all kind of float and get you more cards from the graveyard. We've seen things like Invoke Shadow around. We've seen like Shadow Dogmatica. Mostly Pure Shadow seems to be the one that's doing the most amount of work, and so it's great to see this rogue strategy holding on to his position and continuing to be very, very powerful. One of the biggest surprises to me, and this is a massive surprise to me, I didn't think it would do this much work, but a deck that is putting in some serious work right now is Dangers. Dangers, or particularly a variant of Danger in Japan that is called Kaiju Kaguya, which plays Dangers along with Kaijus and Fairy Tail Luna. Fairy Tail Snow? Fairy Tail Luna. Which one is it? I'm pretty sure it's Luna. Fairy Tail Luna. This card's insane. It uses Sekka's Light, which has been obviously hit on the ban list. to 2, and I couldn't understand why this deck was being focused on, but now seeing the results for the previous season, I understand. Dangers are crazy right now. They're a very, very expensive deck to build because they've got so many ultra rares in the main deck, but their rank 8 engine is almost second to none. They're very, very powerful, and they're very good as a counter for most of the best decks in the game right now. And in fact, there's one deck in particular that they've managed to put in check that I'll talk about later on. Their matchup potential is very, very powerful, and going first, they don't do a whole lot. They're not that good, but many decks want to go first, so if they go second, they are very good at pushing through and breaking boards. And Dangers are pretty much the best going second deck in the game right now. So, yeah, Dangers, Kaiju Kaguya, or Danger Sekka, Danger Dark World, all of them are very, very good variants to play right now. Dangers are very good. And the other thing that's really great about Dangers as well is a lot of they can play without an extra deck, and so they have a lot of good value for festivals that revolve around an extra deck, because you can continue to play the deck that you know and love without really having to worry about your extra deck, because their monsters are very good nonetheless. So yeah, Dangers are actually a tier 1 deck. I didn't think I would see it, but it's absolutely. When I say they're tier 1, the amount of tournaments they've won is insane. The amount of second places they've won is insane. Top cuts, insane. They are very, very much a tier 1 deck. A deck that has also managed to climb the ranks into top tier is Virtual World. Virtual World performing a little bit better than Dangers, but has gone from being a deck that was losing a lot of popularity to right back up in the format, and it's great to see. Virtual Worlds are doing very, very well now. If you're not familiar with Virtual Worlds, they're a Synchron based strategy, and with the Synchron Festival, I think that did a lot of good for the deck, because a lot of people wanted to pick up a Synchron based deck, and so Emancipator and Virtual World were very, very popular in the festival, and therefore people are trying it out in tournaments, and Virtual World is doing crazy stuff right now. So Virtual World is winning tournaments back to back, not as much as certain other tournaments, but enough to be close enough to those that are really powerful. And to give you like a rough idea, when I was seeding my data, the gap between Virtual World and some of the other top tier decks right now is closing. It's really, really quite close. It's definitely not as big as it used to be. So Virtual World, top tier, tier 1 strategy right now in the game. We're almost at the end there, folks, and the last ones are going to revolve around the big 3, the big 3 that are no longer the big 3, they are the big 5, and we have Tri-Brigade, Drytron, Eldritch. Previous format, Drytron was the best deck in the game, Eldritch was second, Tri-Brigade was following a little bit close behind, neck and neck with Eldritch. This has started to shift. We are now seeing that Eldritch, middle of tier 1, hasn't had as many good results as Drytron and Tri-Brigade Zoodiac, but still one of the best decks in the game. It is everywhere. It's mostly got wins in being second place and third place, but has still got many tournament wins as well. It's still very good. I think 60 card Eldritch has become the most popular version with the grass is greener, or 60 card version mixed with zombie Eldritch has become the most popular version, and so Eldritch is still hanging on to be one of the best decks in the game. And I think Eldritch will continue to be really strong, because Eldritch wasn't really hit on the ban list whatsoever. It's going to be strong. While Tri-Brigade was hit, Lyrilusc was hit, Virtual World was hit, Danger Sekka was hit, Phantom Knights were hit, and Emancipators were hit. Oh, what am I talking about? Eldritch was here. Of course it was. Conquistador. I'm nuts. I'm insane. Yeah, we'll see how the change of Conquistador going to 1 will impact this deck, but I think the deck is going to be fine. So if you are an Eldritch player and you're worried about the ban list coming up, I don't think you have to worry too much. I mean, there are other cards you can play to make the deck really work, and by mixing in things like the zombie engine and focusing more on, say, extra deck monsters rather than, say, your back row cards to carry you through, the deck is really good. Particularly like the amount of text it can run with things like Zombie World. Zombie World is such a good counter to things like Tri-Brigade by turning all their cards to zombie, so they can't really do anything with their engine. So it's really, really good. Eldritch, yeah, what's to say? What's the wax poetic about Eldritch? And then for the final change, we've seen, and it's difficult to explain why this has happened, but it has happened. Tri-Brigade Zoodiac is beating Tritron right now. Tri-Brigade Zoodiac is particularly really popular in the West. In TCG countries, English-speaking countries, it is really, really popular, whereas Drytron seems to be more popular in the East. And Drytron, in my data, has more tournament wins than Tri-Brigade, easily. But Tri-Brigade has had a lot more representation recently than Drytron has, which is insane. Where Drytron has the most amount of first place wins, Tri-Brigade has the most amount of third place wins, the most amount of second place wins, and then in other positions as well. You're seeing it in top 16s, top 32s, top 8s. It's everywhere, and I think its popularity is kind of what's carrying its success right now. And we'll see with Fractal being limited whether the deck will be hit. Spoiler, it won't be. The deck will still be really popular. But yeah, it's good to see that Drytron's throne has kind of been dethroned and we're not just seeing Drytron win. I know even a tournament organizer that I know that runs Master Duel tournaments was like, please people, can we not have a whole month of Drytron? And no, you know, you got your Owlets, your Virtual World, your Dangers, and your Tri-Brigades all doing work. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to bring us to our ban list and our tier list for Season 5. My closing thoughts on all of this is Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel is very, very diverse. I've been a competitive player from Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG. Seeing a format with this many decks that you can choose and play from is really, really healthy. There are so many decks that are good options here. And the potential for certain decks to move around is absolutely there as long as people are willing to try. A lot of people said dinosaurs should be better. People went out there, they proved it. Dinosaurs are now doing better. And yeah, there's examples where decks getting worse, Phantom Knights have dropped down. So even though, yeah, we've got tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, I would like to say that the gap between them is still pretty close. And while tier 1 decks are very, very much the most dominant decks in the game right now, the other decks still can hang and still can roll with it. And so that is my tier list for Season 5. What do you think of it? Let me know down in the comments down below. And as always, thank you for tuning into my content. Feel free to hit the subscribe button, leave a comment down below. I'll see you soon. Take care.